meeting All right, everybody. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees to order. And thank everybody for braving the snow and being here. So we certainly appreciate that. We'll go to our roll call. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. President Taylor.
I'm here.
Vice President Nicolette.
Present.
I am here. Trustee Church.
Here.
Trustee Mayberry. Here. Trustee Rodriguez. Trustee Smith. Here. Student Representative Ivy.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam President.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have our pledge, and I'm going to ask, I don't think I've done this since he has been the president of the Washoe Education Association, President Kalen Evans, to lead us in the pledge. You came in right on time. Thank you, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And Ivy, thank you for being on Zoom and not even trying to get here from Incline.
Of course. Thank you for allowing me to be on Zoom.
You betcha. Okay, we're going to go to our consent agenda. And we're going to, let's see, we have an item. We do have an item we know we'd like to pull. And got information from two trustees, Trustee Smith as well as Trustee Nicolette. Didn't take two, but both asked about pulling consent agenda item 2.04. And so we're going to ask staff to be prepared to come in and answer some questions about that. And I'll ask at this time from the consent agenda if there are any other items that anybody would like pulled from the consent agenda. Okay, seeing none. All right, then looking for a motion, if it is the pleasure of the board, to approve consent agenda items 2.02 and 2.03 and 2.05 through 2.09. Wait. Any public comment? Ooh, thank you. All right. Back to looking for a motion again to approve consent agenda items 2.02 and 2.03 and then 2.05 through 2.09. Is there a motion? Motion from Trustee Rodriguez. Is there a second? Second from Trustee Minetto, Clerk Minetto, the one over here. Yes, her, the one over here. All right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Opposition? All right. The motion carries. That the record show that it is unanimous. And then we'll go to consent agenda item 2.04. Thank you, Dr. LaMarca, for coming forward. And I know two trustees. I'll turn it over to both Trustee Smith and Trustee Nicolette. I know, and then there may be others that have questions as well that can start with questions for Dr. LaMarca. Trustee Smith, please, or why don't you go ahead?
Vice President Nicolette and I are both trying to graciously defer to the other. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. LaMarca. I had a few questions about this. I will say personally and on the record that there is no single topic that I have heard more from over my past year plus as a trustee from community members, parents, teachers, administrators, than that of student behavior and discipline. I was grateful to see the plan, but I do have some questions around it. For my first, though, is that the basis of this manual and the matrix is 12 years old. In one of the areas that I noticed that was missing in this iteration, although many groups were mentioned, that of input from teachers is missing from this iteration. If we were to move forward with a revision of this, a meaningful change in the next year, could we commit to working with teachers and those groups and really hearing their experiences and making sure that that's reflected in an updated version of the manual and the matrix?
Yes, for the record, Paul LaMarca, Chief Strategies Officer. Thank you for the questions, Trustee Smith. The quick answer is yes, we can commit to that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. My next question, and this is also for clarification, although the trustees and I did receive this information, is that can you clarify for us that there is a deadline for this manual and matrix to be submitted by a certain date to the state, but based on the dialogue we have today, we could commit as a body to reviewing this over the course of the next year, and really, instead of iterating something 12 times over, since this is 12 years old, but really creating something that more accurately reflects the values that the board and the district would like to see for student behavior.
Again, short answer is yes. We can commit to that. We can commit to sort of a recreation of a district level behavioral plan. I would hope that we work closely with WEA, with our teacher groups, our principal groups, classified staff, parents. Yes, we can. If directed, we can do this exercise. I will tell you that the statute requires that by September 15th, every school receives and reviews the plan and submits to us a behavioral plan of their own. For years, as you mentioned, the district has essentially had like a default plan for every school. The State Department of Education in 2019 created that for the state as a whole, where districts submit one plan. So they kind of followed Washoe's lead. We send out to every school the draft plan early in August. We provide guidance around the development of the progressive discipline teams, which have to be within every building. That team is expected to review this plan in detail, add to it where they want, provide comment where they want, and that does include teachers. That plan is also to be disseminated to every teacher in every building by their principal. There should also be a link at every school website to the district plan. That information is supposed to come to us in September, as I noted, and then the legislative requirement is that we submit to the State Department by November 15th the district's finalized plan, which also there's a form that's in our attachments, which is Dr. Enfield has signed off, indicating that all of our schools are in full compliance. So we have a legislative requirement to indicate if any of our schools have not followed through with developing their progressive discipline team and completing the review. So that's the statute, and yes, we can develop this from the ground up. I think it's a good idea.
I have two more things. Is that okay, Vice President Nicolette? Okay.
If I may, just because it's right where you are, if I may jump in. Thank you, Trustee Smith. I'd also just remind us that the strategic planning process begins in January, and there may very well be some conversation about this during that time, which would allow for those groups, as Dr. Lamarca mentioned, to have an opportunity to weigh in and share their thoughts and concerns as well. So we can be intentional about utilizing those opportunities, and then it's a really robust involvement in those things as well. So that's going to present a great opportunity for us, I think. So
I think that is a great idea. Speaking as one trustee, I recognize that there are limitations that we have based on rules that come down from the legislature and then also from the state. But I do want to be very clear that I, as a trustee, would like to see this board given the opportunity, wherever there is flexibility in the decision making, that decisions and opportunities for insight and guidance come to this board, so that as many places as we can include our intentionality, our values, our priorities to protect teachers and the right for an uninterrupted learning environment from the whole. So in as many places as we possibly can, I, as one trustee, would like to see that opportunity come to this board, which I realize is more of a statement and not a question, but I did want to put that on the record. The last thing that I have here goes back to what I was saying. It's a pair to it, and that are the limitations that we have from the state legislature. Something I would like to pose, I realize we can't discuss it now, but I would like it to come back as an item for discussion for our platform creation, how we can work with other groups within the state in this next legislative session about those areas where they may have had a good intention, but there are unintended consequences I hear regularly about the crushing documentation that is required over weeks, months, and years before changes can happen. I've heard about the limitations for students that are 10 years and under, even with very serious infractions. And while I understand there were good intentions, I believe that the consequences of that were not understood when those rules were passed. I'm not proposing what our platform would be, but I would like it to come back to this board as part of our discussion for the legislative session about how we can go back and help our legislators understand the impact of some of these decisions and possibly arrive at a better version of what their intention is and our intention is as a school district. So again, I recognize that's not a question, but it is something that I'm hoping can come back to this board.
May I comment on that
Please,
briefly?
go ahead, Dr. Lamar.
I do want to just ask you to recall that we did small group briefings with the board this previous May. And as part of that, we did outline several pieces of legislation that we believe should be changed. Dr. Keogh also is working on our bill draft where we're identifying all sorts of places within statute, including disciplinary statute, where it's ripe for revision. We'll be prepared during this legislative session. If the chapter is opened up and we have the opportunity, we will advocate strongly for some significant changes. And I've outlined those for you before, so it's probably getting beyond the agenda item to talk about those now. I do want to mention that we have a student behavior task force that we've had for a couple of years. It's up again. Part of its objective is to review and to adjust legislation given our level of control. That committee is made up of teachers, many of whom have been selected by WEA, principals, and central office administrators. I think that's a group that can help move us along as we enter into the strategic planning cycle. I can also tell you that we've been working very closely with Kalen Evans, the president of WEA, on discipline issues. He and I are visiting schools jointly. He provided me a list of teachers who had things they'd like to share. I'm visiting with all of those teachers. We're doing the best we can to get the input that we need from our educators. So I think I'm grateful for this conversation.
And you're doing a very good job. I would argue that not many people in the state know these rules and the implications of them better than you, and I do believe that you and your team have done a great job with this, and I look forward to seeing how you will lead us through this next chapter too. Thank you, and thank you for that much time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Trustee Smith. Dr. Nicolette was next, unless you want to jump in onto something Trustee Smith said. Trustee Rodriguez?
Yeah, if you don't mind, real quick. Sorry.
Specifically? Okay, go ahead.
The behavior task force, is that just educators? Or who's on that again? Or
this particular task force is just educators. It's classroom teachers, it's principals, site level principals, and it's central office administrators. In the past, when we have put this together, we've had this reviewed by community groups, our Equity Diversity Task Force, our Council on Family Engagement, and I do think if we do a whole-scale redevelopment, we're going to want to do some focus groups with parents. We're going to reach out to the community. It'll kind of be a mini section of the strategic planning process.
Okay, that's kind of what I was getting at. Thank you, Dr. Malaka. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rodriguez. Dr. Nicolette?
Thank you. Excellent question, Trustee Rodriguez. You know, as a trustee, I have the honor of visiting schools, and I see wonderful things happening. And over the last couple months, I feel that I have been shared information that I feel obliged to share with others, because there is a concern with our teachers about classroom behavior. And they're frustrated, they're worried about their students' learning and their success. And they feel that, and this is a collective, this isn't one or two teachers, they feel that sometimes their hands are tied by virtue of our policies and our procedures. And I'm not going to try and identify what that is right now, but we do need to take a deep dive, and I think in the future this document would be best served by having additional input and starting very early as Trustee Rodriguez said, a broader group of people to include student voice. Because I'm going to tell you two things. Other than the fabulosities that I see, I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about two things that worry me. Attendance, and I'd like to see that reflected at a broader range than just, habitual truancy. And then also that interference with instruction. And I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. It's just that I want us to, this is urgent. This is urgent work. The interference with instruction, and in particular, cell phone usage, we got to get a handle on that. It's not good for anyone in the classroom. The kiddos using the cell phones, the students that are trying to concentrate, the teacher, we got to get a handle on that. And I know we can do it, but it will take a community effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nicolette. Trustee Mayberry?
And another thing. Thank you, Madam President. I don't know how much more I can add. I just wanted to echo, get my voice out there as well. Trustee Smith and Nicolette were very eloquent on expressing some of the same things that I've heard and from all our educators. And so oftentimes I think we don't really have a lot of the resources that we need to address the problem in the classroom. And so I'd like us to put a higher priority on that. Perhaps that could be a discussion that we can really do a deeper dive in during the strategic planning process as we embark into that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mayberry. Trustee Church, your light was probably on first, but my head was this way listening to her, so I missed you. Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No, I actually have a question for my fellow trustees, so you're off the hook, Dr. Lamarca. Would it be, reading the agenda item as an action item to support my fellow trustees, would it be worth, and it's a question, would it be worth a motion that we bring it back in approximately no later than June 30th or something like that? In other words, we approve it, but should we actually provide direction to the superintendent to bring this back to the table?
I mean, I think that certainly can be done. I would recommend that we make a part of that, whether it's a motion or intention or what have you, that it's included in the strategic plan. And whatever way we have a professional that's going to be coming to help us with that, but that way we really do get that robust input that we want. Certainly we know we want the voices of the teachers and the students. We know the community has concerns, and the strategic planning process is pretty broad and allows that to happen and ends June 30th. So it may be bring it back June 30th. It may be make sure it's a part of the strategic. It ends June 30th anyway, so it could be anyway. If you like to.
I just made that up, but my main thought was that the legislature will be over by then, and we may have mandatory changes.
Could be.
Again, my crystal ball isn't working too well. It's snowing too much, as well as we may have a different makeup of the board. But I just wanted to bring that up for my fellow trustees, if I can support them in any way on that.
Well, I've asked council to see if we could make that. So why don't we pause for a minute? We have public comment, and then we can still talk about approving this item with an additional motion for something if that's allowable. And council's looking at that. You want to weigh in before the public comment?
I think that Dr. Lamarca wanted to weigh in, so I wanted to give him a chance.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Here are my thoughts, and I think it's a really good idea. But what I would suggest is some of what I think is coming up is a mixture of state statute around behavior, but also statute around special education and some other sort of constraining factors. I also want to remind you of the statutory requirements, which we can always be ahead of the requirements, but there are timelines. Mm-hmm. Schools won't be able to review the plan and potentially make adjustments until early fall. We could definitely approve a draft that then goes to schools, get their feedback, and come back a second time with consent, and I think that makes a lot of good sense. What I would recommend, depending on what you all want, is an opportunity to basically do a workshop around special education law and behavioral law and how that's affecting what we do in supporting classrooms. And that's a lengthy conversation, and it probably wouldn't need to wait till June. It'd probably be something that could be part of the strategic planning process, because there's a lot that's federal that is kind of tying our hands, to use your language.
So we have some federal constraints, for lack of a better, or directions. We have some state right? Nevada state statute. And I think what Trustee Church was referring to was by June. So it wouldn't necessarily, if it's before then, that's okay. But by, am I putting words in your mouth? I think that's what.
My only thought in my little brain was the legislature, and the fact we may have a new makeup of the board, but mainly just time it with the legislature that we have time to digest whatever they come out with.
Yeah, and I think my thinking on it was also having to do with the timing of completing the strategic plan as well. It wouldn't make sense to come up with a deadline, if you will, while that process is still ongoing, because who knows what's going to come out of that process as well. Madam Superintendent?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there are as many strategic plan implications for this, perhaps, as people might think. Because remember, the strategic planning process will be establishing our district values and our goals. This, I think, to Dr. LaMarca's point, I do think a work session at some point on the complexities of special education law, specifically as it relates to student discipline, students remaining in school, is appropriate. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying these topics won't be part of our strategic plan conversation, but I just want to make sure I'm hearing a lot of things, strategic plan, and I just want to manage expectations, because I don't want people to think that we can do everything in the kitchen sink and that's all I just wanted to.
No, you're right, and that's my mistake. It doesn't get down to that. It doesn't get down to that level of nuance, but the work session, as you recommend, might provide that opportunity. Trustee Smith?
So I know that we still have public comment, so perhaps a motion could approve the manual and the matrix as it is, but provide a more open-ended guidance that over the course of the next year, we would like to have a workshop and to work to understand our options legislatively, and then also as a district as we revise the manual in time for the next submission in that next year, which would be 2023. So maybe something a little bit more broad like that.
I think that would work, and I would recommend that let them be two motions, and check with council, and it's okay to have a secondary motion so they stand alone. One is the approval of the manual, because it needs to happen and so on, but the other one is with a little more directive in terms of what might be the pleasure of the board. So I'm going to pause for a minute and let's get the public comment, and then we'll come back and looking for those two motions, if that's the pleasure of the board.
Kaylin Evans.
Oh, let's get you. Okay, there we go.
There you go. For the record, my name is Kaylin Evans, president of WEA. I just wanted to say first off, thank you, Trustee Smith and the other trustees, for your voices of concern and passion towards this issue. I would say that student behavior and the impacts that it's having, not only on our educators but our students and our families at the school site, is up there. It's as much of an issue as any issue that we're dealing with. I also wanted to say, a big thank you to Dr. LaMarca and his team. They've been extremely supportive in addressing concerns when we reach out regarding student behavior. As Dr. LaMarca had indicated, him and I have been going to different school sites, meeting with staff personally, listening to concerns, taking account to how we can use that to shape policy. I think it sends a really strong message when him and I are going to these sites together, because it shows the importance of the district and the unions collaborating to address this. From a legislative standpoint, both the local and state unions, student behavior is one of our key issues. We welcome the opportunity to really work closely with Paul and his teams to see where there is specific state statute language that we can address to provide more supports in the classroom. And I think this is a very unifying issue across the political spectrum. I think everybody across the board understands that we need to do something drastically to address student behavior. And also, I just kind of want to start to put this idea where, we talk about resources, and I think about the resources that Paul and his team have available to support, 104 some odd schools in our school district. It's extremely limited. We are always going to have limited resources as a school district. That's just the reality of public education. And so we really need to think about, where are we putting the resources that we do have and the personnel that we do have to support these different initiatives. And we talk so much about learning loss and the importance of combating the learning loss that has occurred. I can tell you right now, from my personal experience, but also my discussions with countless educators, There's nothing that is impacting learning loss more than the behavior of students in the classroom. You have a very, very small percentage of our student body that is drastically impacting the learning of the rest of them. If we want to address learning loss, we have to start, before we take any other approaches, we have to start first with the mental well-being of our students and addressing student behaviors in the classroom. All of the resources that we are putting into these other measures to address learning loss, none of them will have their intended impact if we don't first address this kind of core issue of student behavior. So I just hope that as a district going forward that we really start to reallocate resources into those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
That's all I have for this item.
Okay. Thank you very much. Council, you're weighing in on this?
So this, it's my recollection, I confirmed with Tristan, this gets reviewed every year, the behavior manual. So this is coming back to you all. I don't know how comfortable I am with the motion after reading the item about setting up, what was the word they used, work sessions or workshops,
work session,
things
workshops.
of that nature. That's not really what's contemplated here. If you want to give some direction to the superintendent, I think you actually have to build it into the motion. We approve the behavior manual, and we want to see a workshop on this or something along those lines.
So it needs to be one motion, not two, then, to keep it together?
If as two, I'm uncomfortable with that, because yeah.
Okay, well, that
Does
can
that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. So it looks like we can still accomplish what it sounds like the board wants to accomplish, but we need to do not two motions as I asked for clarity, but one motion for open meeting law purposes. So if that is a pleasure of the board, and I would say I do think it's something that the board is as a whole is concerned about. I appreciate Mr. Evans talking about learning loss. We also know that from all of us who've been in schools and spoken with our educators and so on, it also has an impact, a big impact on our educators and their job satisfaction and their retention because they want to teach kids. They want kids to learn. It has a big impact, and as we continue to look at that, it's an important piece as well. So, Trustee Church?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I'm leaning towards making a motion or supporting a motion that would bring it back as an agenda item. Again, say prior to June 30th, after the legislature, as opposed to a workshop. But I think that's we can always do workshops without an agenda, without a direction,
without a motion.
And I got to say, I was so impressed with our speaker, Mr. Evans. You didn't read off your notes. We got to put you back in the classroom. I mean, that was so eloquently stated and just off the cuff. So. And very well spoken in support of that. I just think we need to bring it back as an agenda item within, say, after the legislature.
And what that might, thank you, Trustee Church. And what I might say is maybe saying like within the year. And the reason I say that, we know it has to come back every year anyway, right? Because it has to be on an annual basis. And then that way it's past the legislature, it's past strategic plan, it's past all of that. It can always come up earlier than that, but it just gives you a little bit more time. So just something to consider. It looks like you're not making the motion, but you're passing it on to Trustee Smith. Okay, Trustee Smith.
All right, I'm going to give this a go.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this slowly because I know JJ is probably taking notes. So I move that we adopt consent agenda item 2.04 and also direct Superintendent Enfield to initiate a review and update to the student behavior manual and matrix, which may include a workshop, legislative session planning and involvement, future agenda items, and other channels and engagement over the next year.
Okay. You got that, JJ? There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor as stated. I think that kind of really gathered everything up in terms of the questions, the comments, making sure we're legal, but God bless you, allows us to go forward. So any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Opposition? Right, the motion carries. The record show it is unanimous. Dr. LaMarca, thank you. Okay, and thank you to our colleagues who pulled that to make sure we can dive into that a little bit deeper. All right, now we're on to agenda item 3.0. 401. Oh, yeah, we're reordering. Yeah. Okay, got it. Sorry.
Madam President?
Yes.
I have a question on protocol or
Yes.
removing something from the agenda or discussing something, under the chance if it gets removed off the agenda, people may want to leave. At what point would I do that?
When is the appropriate time to do that, Council? When the item opens.
I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Okay? Okay, all right. I thought so, but since you asked, I thought we'd make this clarify and make sure. Okay, so we're going to go to, yeah, that's right, we're doing this one first. We're going to agenda item 4.01. 4.01, it's adoption of Washoe County School District Board Resolution 22-031, a resolution of the Board of Trustees recognizing November 7th through the 11th, 2022 as National School Psychology Week, and this is for possible action. And we're going to ask Dr. Lamarca, is he still here? There, yeah. To come on back up, and then we do have the resolution that will be read by Dr. Nicolette at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Again, Paul Lamarca, Chief Strategies Officer. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Brandy Olson, and it's good to see Brandy. She's been out for a little bit. She's gonna walk us through this.
Okay, welcome, Brandy. Thank you for joining us via Zoom.
Thank you for having me via Zoom. I really appreciate that. Hello, Superintendent Dr. Enfield, President Dr. Taylor, and the Board of Trustees. My name is Brandy Olson. I'm the Coordinator of Psychological Services. With me virtually are Andy Haycock, the Mental Health Programs Administrator, and Jennifer Mitterer, a school psychologist. We appreciate the board's time on this snowy afternoon. This week, November 7th through 11th, is National School Psychology Week. This year's theme is Together We Shine, which is derived from how we see hope after several difficult years nationally and globally. School psychologists work to bring hope, encouragement, and resources to families and school teams. School psychologists receive advanced graduate preparation relevant to both school psychology and education. They complete a master's, education specialist, or doctoral program in school psychology and are licensed by the Department of Education. They are trained to provide academic and behavioral interventions, mental health supports, evaluations, assessments, and data analysis, consultation with teachers and families, culturally responsive services, and crisis prevention and response.
So, as you can see, school psychologists wear many hats. Within the Washoe County School District, they are members in the multi-tiered system of support, MTSS process, which helps to identify interventions for both academically and socially, emotionally, behaviorally at-risk students. School psychologists promote that MTSS, social emotional learning, positive behavior interventions and supports, restorative practices, and trauma-informed practices. They work with other mental health professionals in the schools, counselors, and social workers to activate a cohesive mental health team. School psychologists collaborate and build relationships with community partners such as the University of Nevada School of Medicine, UCAN, BEX, LEND, and various mental health providers. They provide mental health and academic consultation to administrators, staff, parents, and community mental health providers.
Good afternoon, all. Student behavior and student safety are a priority for the Washoe County School District, and we have seen an increase in the need for threat assessment, student safety planning, and student behavioral supports. School psychologists play an integral role in these processes. School psychologists support school safety, which includes behavioral health management, crisis response, threat inquiry consultation, and facilitation of comprehensive threat assessments. School psychologists play direct and consultative roles in the development of behavioral supports at the universal, small group, and individual levels, and are invaluable resources to their school sites. School psychologists also support students transitioning from residential treatment centers, correctional centers, and other alternative educational settings by working with school teams to develop safety plans and ensuring needed academic and behavioral supports are in place.
School psychologists conduct initial and 3-year reevaluations for students with special needs, including child find, private school, and homeschool evaluations. They also develop specialized teams to support schools with autism evaluations. There's an increase for examining the possible presence of autism, and these teams play an active role in training other school psychologists in these evaluation processes and provide consultation to school sites. School psychologists support academic and mental health needs of our students via direct assessments, individual and small group supports, and referrals to outside mental health agencies. Additionally, school psychologists work collaboratively with school teams and district and community resources as they continue to address the academic and social and emotional needs of our school community. Thank you again for your time and consideration, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Why don't we do this before this is an action item. Do we have any public comment on this one? No, we don't. Why don't we ask Dr. Nicolette to read the resolution? Then we can have any comments that we need to from there. Dr. Nicolette?
Honored to. Washoe County School District Board Resolution 22-031, a resolution of the Board of Trustees recognizing November 7th through 11th, 2022 as National School Psychology Week. Whereas the Washoe County School District acknowledges students learn best and advanced academically when they are healthy, supported, and receive an education that meets their individual needs. And whereas to enhance the whole child, schools must apply sound psychological principles to instruction and learning through multi-tiered systems of supports, cultivate students' intellectual and social emotional development, meet the needs of a culturally diverse population, and promote early intervention to ensure academic success. And whereas school psychologists are specially trained to provide a continuum of mental health services, academic supports that help to remove barriers to learning, enable teachers to teach and students to learn. And whereas school psychologists help families foster healthy development and are the school-based experts in psychological development and learning. And whereas school psychologists are often the leaders in violence prevention, intervention, response, and safety in our schools. And whereas the Washoe County School District recognizes the vital role school psychologists play in the personal and academic development of the children in Washoe County. Now, therefore, the Board of Trustees do hereby recognize November 7th through 11th, 2022 as National School Psychology Week in Washoe County School District, adopted this day of November 8th, 2022. Thank you. And so I hope you enjoyed your November 7th, because that was yesterday, and I hope you had a good day.
You want to make sure you get the whole week. That's right, and don't cheat you. I will just say, really, just on behalf of all of us, thank you. The work that you do is so meaningful and so important. School today is not what school was like, back 100 years ago when I was in it, right? That was a joke. That was in the 100 years. I got nothing. It's okay. Forget it. But no, I mean, it's such a big need. It's such a big need, and the work that you do is so important. We know we don't have enough of you to carry the weight that you carry, but I think some of the things that you mentioned, whether it was the importance of the support you give for the MTSS services, for the social emotional learning, even threat assessments. I mean, those are really critical when we start talking about the learning environment. Why do we do this? Because kids can't learn without that kind of support. It's still about kids learning. And it's just such an important piece. So thank you so much, and it's really our pleasure to be able to recognize you with this resolution. All right.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Dr. Enfield?
I just also want to echo my thanks. I'm glad that we could have you here via Zoom. I'm glad that you're safe and warm wherever you are. But just know that we're grateful for the work that you do. And we know how critically important it is. And I also think it's fair to say in my conversations with you that we also know that you are spread quite thin, and that there are things you would like to be focusing your time and attention to that you're not able to because all of the responsibilities you have. And that's something that we will continue to work on as well, so that we can maximize your impact in the lives of our children. So thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. All right, that's resolution number 1. Oh yes, an action item. Okay, so yes, right. Actually, we need a motion to approve the resolution. Okay, motion from Dr. Nicolette to approve resolution, board resolution 22-031. Is there a second? Second from Clerk Minetto. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? All right, the motion carries. Let the record show that it is unanimous. Again, thank you so much. We really couldn't do nearly what we do in the schools without you. Okay, we have another resolution. This is agenda item 4.02. It's the adoption of Washoe County School District Board Resolution 22-033. This is a resolution of the Board of Trustees recognizing National Apprenticeship Week and the importance of career and technical education. Dr. Parks and Mr. Hartzong, I saw you came in. Gentlemen, I will turn it over to you.
Let's go directly to me. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, board, Superintendent Enfield, district leadership, and members of our community. For the record, my name is Josh Hartzog, and I'm the director of the Department of Signature Academies and Career and Technical Education. Today, I'm joined by my department colleague in the back and CTE coordinator, Ms. Kathy Smith. We want to thank the board for taking the time to consider this resolution recognizing National Apprenticeship Week and the importance of career and technical education. And I'm pleased to remind the board that at this point we offer no less than 9 CTE programs aligned with the building and construction trades at half of our comprehensive high schools. We currently offer 4 construction technology programs, 3 metalworking programs, and 2 welding technology programs. And with the opening of Debbie Smith Career Technical Academy on the horizon, that school will add yet 1 more construction program to our CTE ecosystem. With each of these programs, we continue to work on creating stronger linkages with our regional apprenticeship programs. And with that, I have the pleasure of turning the mic over to our local representative of the building and construction trades community, Mr. Brian Prather.
Welcome, Mr. Prather.
Thank you. I'm Brian Prather for the record for the Northern Nevada Apprenticeship Coordinators Association. I want to thank this board for the proclamation to recognize Apprenticeship Week. This is a big deal for us. Unfortunately, we got late notice about this, so I was headed out this room packed full of apprentices.
You usually do.
You're right.
You usually do.
You would, too. So we kind of caught us a little bit, but that's okay. So right now, there's 61 registered apprenticeship programs in Nevada right now. Wow. That's 5,840 apprentices that are being trained right now for careers. That's a good number. What this is doing now, in the next 10 years, we're expecting a lot of our journeymen to retire out. Me being one of them. But we need to fill these jobs, these well-paying, good, secure jobs, and we need to fill that with these people coming up through the programs. And registered apprenticeship programs is the way we need to do that. So as we know, the construction trades have been essential to keeping Nevada's economy going through the pandemic and any other time. It's the backbone of the economies for the most part, and we need to keep these tradesmen being trained in the way they go. Now, the role of apprenticeship in the expanding opportunities workforce is to include individuals that normally get excluded, marginalized, adversely affected, poverty, the percent of poverty, inequality, and providing a path for qualified individuals, including women, youth, people of color, rural communities, justice-involved individuals, individuals with disabilities, to become apprentices and be contributing members of our society. And I can honestly say that I came up through an apprenticeship as well, and I've been very successful at what we've been doing. Oops, my thing is big. So to celebrate this, I know a lot of you board members have been to our training sites, and I'd like to encourage other board members, as well as Washoe County other members that have been there, to go to these training sites and see what we do. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of these programs, when you go in there, you'll be really surprised in how much they do and they learn and the opportunities that are there. And I know a lot of Washoe County is also, this was our 5th year that we had Construction Career Day. And I hope some of you got to attend that as well. Mm-hmm. But that gave a lot of these young people coming out of the schools right now an opportunity to get hands-on with our crafts and our trades and kind of see what's out there. Because as you well know, not everybody's going to be going into college and moving on like that. In fact, most of them won't. But we can't give them a pathway, and that's why we're considered the other 4-year degree. So with that, I'd like to thank you for the proclamation, and excuse myself. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prather. And I will go on record, and every year I've been on the board, this is the first year, usually they're packed. This place is packed out, and so certainly I chalked it up to the weather, but we know how important this is to the trades, and we know really from our standpoint, when we talk about college and career ready, we want our students to, we know everyone's not going to choose to go the college route, but they need other great careers and good paying jobs. We know the trades certainly represent that, and we need it in our community. In case we don't recognize, there's a construction shortage around here, so
Yes,
we certainly need that as well. So it just offers a great opportunity for our students. So we thank you for that work and partnership. We're going to ask for any public comment first, JJ, and then we'll go to Trustee Church to read our proclamation, sir.
Thank you. Washoe County School District Board Resolution 22.033, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Washoe County School District recognizing National Apprenticeship Week and the importance of career and technical education. Whereas 2022 marks the 85th anniversary of the National Apprenticeship Act, and whereas National Apprenticeship Week is celebrating its 8th anniversary of raising awareness of the vital role apprenticeships provide in creating opportunities by allowing apprentices to earn while they learn and preparing a pathway to good quality jobs and well-paying careers in Washoe County and across the nation. And whereas the Washoe County School District is committed to providing opportunities for all students and recognizes the importance of career and technical education in preparing students for college and career options, and whereas the role of apprenticeship provides a path of qualified individuals, including women, youth, people of color, rural communities, justice-involved individuals, and individuals with disabilities to contribute to America's industries. And whereas the Washoe County School District recognizes apprenticeships as a proven and industry-driven training model that can build a pipeline into good quality jobs in order to address our nation's pressing workforce challenges, such as rebuilding our country's infrastructure, addressing critical supply chain demands, supporting a clean energy workforce, modernizing our cybersecurity response, and responding to care economy issues. And now, therefore, the Board of Trustees do hereby recognize November 14th, 2022 through November 20, 2022 as National Apprenticeship Week in the Washoe County School District.
Thank you, Trustee Church. Let's give that a round of applause. All right, since you are here, we would love to be able to come gather here and take a picture. Since you're here, we didn't get a chance to do that with our school psychologist, but I'm sorry. Oh, let's vote first. Sorry, thank you, JJ.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Please, go ahead, Trustee Church.
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt Washoe County School District Board Resolution 22-033, a resolution of the Board of Trustees recognizing National Apprenticeship Week and the importance of career and technical education.
Thank you, Trustee Church. Is there a second? Second, I got them all. Well, I'll take Trustee Rodriguez. I'll give him that one. Okay, seeing no further discussion. All those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Opposition? All right, the motion carries. That the record show it is unanimous. Let's take a picture. And just thank you so much for what you do, providing those opportunities for those folks that really need it and helping the community. All right, everybody. Good fun stuff. All right, we are going back now. We had guests, and we didn't want to hold them in unless we needed to. So we're going to go to agenda item 3.01. 3.01, this is our public hearing, discussion, and adoption of Washoe County School District Board Resolution 22-032. I'm going to pause. Yes, if you're here for the apprenticeship, get out while you can. This is your chance. So go. Nothing but love, but.
That's right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, no, beat whatever snow you can. So thanks for being here. We appreciate you. All right. Again, agenda item 3.01, public hearing, discussion, and adoption of Washoe County School District Board Resolution 22-032, a resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $3.4 million of medium-term obligations for the purpose of acquiring school buses and other support vehicles for the district, and directing the chief financial officer to forward materials to the Department of Taxation of the state of Nevada. This is for a possible action. We're going to have a public hearing on this, but first we're going to turn it over. Do I open the public hearing first and then turn it over to you?
It's however you.
Why don't we go ahead and open the public hearing now so we can make sure that way if there's comments, we can catch those as well. So I will declare the public meeting is now open, and then we'll turn it over to you.
Very good. Thank you, Madam President. So as you all know, the district's had for a number of years kind of a rolling 4-year program where we issue 4-year bonds for the purchase of mostly buses, but also support vehicles like our police vehicles, tractors, not tractors, trailers, trucks that are located at schools, et cetera. So as each year as debt drops off, we issue a new round of debt. So before you is what we call authorizing resolution that starts the process. This authorizes me to submit materials to the State Department of Taxation, who will review this transaction, and then I will come back to you with the actual bond resolution after their approval. So as you had noted and as is contained in the resolution, we are looking to issue $3.4 million. $2.3 million of that is for replacement of buses. Unfortunately, we've seen the price of buses go up, so we're only able to buy 12 buses with that $2.3 million, and then the remainder again would go to buy, in this case, 22 support vehicles and equipment. These medium-term bonds are general obligations of the district, so they carry the full faith and credit of the district, but they are paid by our government services tax capital project fund, not our general fund. The debt service for these bonds is budgeted and paid for, or will be paid for by GST tax monies. So again, if we have your approval for the resolution and we can move forward with the transaction, put our in for the buses, and then at some point receive them. We have a much longer supply, order period now because of supply chain issues, but it's important to get going to get those orders in. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, why don't we'll go questions, and then we'll see if we have any, no public comment? Okay, so we'll close that period as well. Trustee, no? Trustee Mayberry?
No question, just a motion.
Okay, then I think we need to call for public comment. We've had that. There is no public comment, so we'll go ahead and close the public meeting at this time and declare the public meeting is closed. And now we are looking for a motion, and we'll go to you, Trustee Mayberry.
Madam President, I move to approve item 3.01.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a motion on the floor pertaining to Board Resolution 22-032. Is there a second? Second from Trustee Rodriguez. Discussion?
Quick discussion?
Please, go ahead.
I was out of the room, so I wasn't able to hear everything, but I have read the agenda item and the material, so I just want to put that on the record.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Church. Further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Opposition? Okay. Let the record show the motion is carried and it is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Mather. Let's get some new buses. And tractors, right. Yeah. Can we get bus drivers with that bond so we can't Okay. Okay. All right. Tammy's like, yeah, we got track. Okay. Can we get bus drivers with the bond resolution? That's my question. Okay. I guess that's a no. So I'll move on the agenda. That's a no. Okay. We cannot get people with bond issues. That would be bad. All right. On to agenda item. I think I'll bring this to your attention, Trustee Church. I know you want to put something up on this. This agenda item 4.03, discussion and possible action for the Board of Trustees to proactively adopt a process for appointment of legally qualified persons to fill a potential vacancy on the Board of Trustees in District E, The adoption of this process is contingent upon a vacancy related to Nevada Revised Statute NRS 281.055, which states no person may hold more than one elective office at a time, and will proceed only if needed, including timelines, interview process, interview questions, application deadline, date for selection of finalists, and date for appointment to fill the potential vacancy in District E. I'm going to pause, Trustee Church. I think you wanted to. I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that, sir.
Thank you. I do request the item be pulled, and if I might, very briefly, I submitted about 7 or 8 different reasons previously on why. There's an election going on today. It's going to end in another maybe four hours, and I don't want anybody watching this to be influenced in any way on their decision to vote based on how we're going to fill that vacancy. This report does say staff is requesting. I just don't think this is a staff issue. I think it's a board issue. I've been through 3 appointments. I've never seen anything like this ahead of time using taxpayer time and resource on a what if. And then I have to ask, if we do proceed today, should Dr. Taylor be involved in the discussion of her replacement? I mean, in the past, we didn't do that. So that's the short version of my concerns, and I sure appreciate and I'm passing on some of those of my constituents, and I appreciate the time to express that.
So your question, your request, sir, is?
To remove this item.
Okay. Well,
I think there's plenty of time down the road to talk about it after the election. I don't think it has to wait till the canvass, but I think it should wait till the election results are out.
Okay. Well, okay. So is that a motion, sir? Let's start. I guess you're right to be in line.
You want a motion? I make a motion that we remove this from the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, and I need to see if there's a second before we can have. I was going to have discussion, but before we have discussion, it doesn't seem as though there's a second, Trustee Church, so this will die for lack of a second. We will go on with the presentation. I will say a couple of things. One is that Nevada Revised Statute, should I be elected, and it is should, because it is out there, we may not know for days. Right, quite honestly, right, and if I thought this was a shoe-in, I wouldn't have been out there in the rain yesterday and snow, knocking on doors. So this is absolutely not about that. But this is about. It would be irresponsible for me to not ask staff to do a little research in places on the agenda. So it isn't really driven by staff. It's because I relatively recently learned that Nevada statute, and I shared this with you, Trustee Church, requires that newly elected legislators take office on the day after the election. So this does not give us time till January or February, as I thought, quite honestly, going in. So that being the case, it could be as early as tomorrow if it is enforced strictly and so on. It could be. Likely there'll be some issues and election may be challenged and yada yada, but they will be irresponsible to not say, hey board, this could be coming. And I will say we have appointed 3, and we have appointed 3 with time and distance before, like when Trustee Andrew Calder, we knew that he was leaving, and he gave us weeks' notice, and so we started that process before he left. Trustee Thigpen, when he was leaving, he gave us notice, and that was still in advance to be irresponsible to not begin the process before they left. And so I do think this is in alignment with that. Additionally, I will say most recently, in the city of Reno, they've appointed a couple of council people, even though they knew an election was coming as well, because it's irresponsible to not have the people in those areas represented. My biggest concern is the people in District E. That is my district that I have been honored to represent for almost 8 years. We've worked together. We've worked through some things. I've tried to be there for them. They have been there for me, and my intention is to advocate to get them full representation as early as possible. And so that's why that's coming forward. So, okay, Trustee Smith.
Thanks, President Taylor. Just a couple things. This is clearly written in the board report, but I do think it is worth pointing out because we have had other local bodies that have had vacancies. It is written, but NRS 386.278, and it's chapter 238, the Board of Trustees fill by appointment by the remaining members. And so I want to call that out specifically because I know that there's been a lot of conversation about public bodies versus special elections, and I want to make it very, very clear that NRS states that we do appoint based on an appointment process, so the idea of a general election simply doesn't exist.
Right.
Again, I recognize that that's in the board report. Not a lot of people always know that that's there, but I do think it's worth saying. In the case of at least former trustee Kurt Thigpen, he was at the discussion, but he didn't vote on the dates and the timeline. Is that, can I be reminded of that? But he was present for it, and so was former trustee Cottle.
Yes.
But they did not vote on what was adopted.
Right, and I actually, well before this, as the conversation around this, I had the conversation with council, so I would know what's appropriate, and I absolutely don't expect to vote on it at all. I actually don't expect to participate very much at all, except for to answer some questions, as I just did, on the why and some of those requirements of statute that, again, I didn't even know about. So because it's your conversation to have in the event that I win. So this will only occur in the event that I win. I think it's really important to note that as well. And none of us, we may not know that for days. Right, and we know that. But if that does happen, we'll be able to respond. If it does not happen, then we'll keep on going. Okay, staff, I'll turn it over to you, council.
Since you said that, I think now's a good time to point out under NRS 281A 420 that you have made a disclosure that you don't plan on voting on this because you feel that it could be a conflict of interest. However, 281A 420 does allow you to still participate in the meeting. And so in this case, as we discussed, you're going to guide the meeting as the president of the board, and that's really your only role, and you'll be abstaining from the vote.
Absolutely. Just as our conversation, and you said it with more legal ease, and I was hoping that's what I said, but I think that would be, that's the appropriate thing to do. Okay?
I have a question for legal while we're on that, if I might.
Sure, if you may.
So for legal, would if Dr. Taylor were to win, say November 9th, 90% of the vote, is that the date, or is it when it's canvassed by the Washoe County?
Well, as you've pointed out to me in the past, I don't give legal advice to potentially, I guess if that fact pattern is true, to Assembly Person Taylor. However, it's my understanding she spoke to the LCB, who said that she should stay on this board until November 22nd.
Until
and
the
LCB
canvas.
Until the canvas is complete, which is November 22nd.
I was going to respond to that because I actually
and the
made, because it would be
advised her.
inappropriate. It would, so I made the call to which is actually what prompted me to know this, because anyway, it didn't matter. But I made the call and spoke with the director, and because of we know that these are just kind of more unique times, and the election results will likely, across the board, will likely not be finalized until that date. Then the intention is to, now should the governor call a special session, that changes everything. I'm out. Okay, that's just, and that's the intention is so that you don't have lame duck things happening. That's why the intention of you take office right after the election. It is the only office in our state, from what I understand, is done that way. And the intention is so that you don't have lame duck maneuvering, right? And then you don't have potential ethical violations. And so I was schooled on still what I could or could not do should I be elected up until that time. And if a special election is called, I mean, if a special session is called by the governor, then it happens at that time. So I had that conversation, and then I shared that with council, because that would, again, I wouldn't want to put them in that position, and I wanted to know, because most people don't know that, quite honestly. I mean, it was news to me, right? It was news to me, so.
As a side note, in representing the board, we did double check the research, and that seems to be accurate. So she would.
You double checked me?
Of course.
I don't blame you. I would too.
It's not you. It's the LCB.
No,
anyway.
just to be sure. I mean, sure, just to be sure. Absolutely have to.
And just so that everyone understands, there's a case that's on point, and what it said is that we don't want a governor and legislative body who are no longer in office to be able to call a special session and pass a bunch of laws that they want. And so if a special session is called, then those who are elected immediately take that office to avoid that situation. So.
And that's why the statute that says you can't hold two offices at the same time is the statute that's a part of the agenda item. But the information behind that is what's already been shared. Trustee Smith and then Dr. Nicolette.
Thank you. I have a question. It may be most suited for Michelle Anderson. But do we have the process in place to go live with this effective tomorrow and then promote this as robustly as possible in the community?
I'm just going to stop because that's going to be part of the presentation. So if we may have the presentation from staff first, and then if you have a question, we can.
Yes,
Is that okay?
you certainly can.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
We kind of got into the discussion before the presentation, which is backwards, so I apologize.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry to. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, President Taylor and Superintendent Enfield and the Board of Trustees. As we've already vetted on this item, this is a contingent item. We have the paperwork ready to go. I will apologize for the error in the staff report. The request was President Taylor's request made through my office, as my office and or it's not my office, I don't know, the Office of General Counsel and Board of Services works together on this. And we were concerned that just in case something happened where, or I shared her concern, President Taylor's concern, that if something were to happen where she had to take office earlier, we need to get this process started. And so the recommendation was to come and bring our standard process as opposed to our truncated process when we appointed Trustee Kennedy, which was done in, I literally think we did it in 3 weeks.
About 15 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, we did. Well, we had to do 3 weeks. We had to meet the 2-week timeline. I think we had her on board within 3 weeks, though, and if I recall, that was a long night because we had to do interview. What did we interview? 15 candidates and everything. So yeah, so we and President Taylor did not want the truncated process. She didn't feel that was fair to the community. So we have this law. We have used our standard process that we use to appoint other trustees. And so that's what we're here for tonight, is to adopt that process. The process is rather standard, except for the fact that President Taylor is still here on the board, and and again, I guess Trustee Cottle was, and so was Digpen. Thank you. So I don't really have a lot to add. The timeline's up there on the board. We worked with board services. Thank you, JJ and Vanjie, for helping us get the documents together. Our team and the Office of General Counsel vetted everything. The timeline's up there. The notices are going to hit the paper. We're going to, one of the difficulties, and it does feel a little shortened at the beginning than the standard process, is because of holidays. And we have a lot of holidays to deal with, and that changes our notice requirements for the open meeting law. And then we still have to give JJ at least a day to vet all of these folks who might apply and make sure that they live in their district and meet the requirements of NRS 386-027. And so that part is a little speedy if you look at the calendar, but for the most part, this is the standard process we use. If it's necessary to have a weeding out meeting, as we've called it traditionally in the past, we would do that on November, when did we decide to do that? 22nd, thank you. And then at the weeding out meeting, we would reduce it down to roughly 5 or 6. It would be up to the board to pass a motion at that time. And then after that, we would put notices in the paper for once a week. And that's the other part that I failed to mention, which also makes it more difficult, is every single person's name who's going to be considered by you has to get on the agenda. So not only do we have to vet them and make sure that they qualify, then we have to get their names into the agenda, then we have to get it onto a public notice. So it's just a lot. And again, thanks to JJ and Vanjie. They were awesome support for our team. So then we also will do the notice in the paper saying on this day we will appoint. That day would be on December 6th. Thank you. And at that point in time, we won't be the 7 of us, because if this contingency plan goes into effect, President Taylor will will be an assembly person at that point. So so that's really where it's at. I'll be happy to answer questions. I don't really want to belabor this. We've done this before. I think we all kind of know where we're at.
The only thing I will add, just from a timing standpoint in doing the process, one of the things that I like about one is doing the regular process. It's a process we've always done, and that gives the community, even with all the holidays, right, that mess up things like posting, even like Veterans Day. I mean, that changes things. We still want the community to have a good opportunity to apply. But should this calendar and whatever it is that you approve, and I'm going to ask everyone now if you would just look at your dates, right, so that you know kind of what's happening there, make sure you're available, is that technically the next meeting would be, if I'm successful, right, in the election today, the next meeting would be my last meeting, but this could be in place before the next meeting of the Board of Trustees, which means the constituents in District E don't miss a vote. That's powerful for them, and that's, I think it's important for me as a representative to advocate for that.
Yeah, and I failed to mention that, and I should have, and I apologize. President Taylor asked us to pick the December 6th date to make sure that whoever replaces her has at least 1 week to prepare, because I think, was it you, Trustee Smith? You got appointed that day, and you too? Okay, I couldn't remember, but you got appointed and literally had to go attend a meeting. That's pretty tough to do.
But she had read the packet, you know.
Yeah. I'm not surprised either one of you read the whole packet,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, we wanted to try to give that person she asked that we give that person some time, so I targeted that date and then backwards this calendar in.
If possible. So, Sir, Trustee Church?
Thank you. Just a couple clarification questions. The 22nd, do we still have the regular board meeting tentatively scheduled that day? Mm-hmm. So it'll be 2, okay. And then...
like 2 meetings because there's a special. Okay,
yeah,
I got
so
it.
we have the special, then we're going to have a regular.
Yeah.
So
the special's not on my calendar because I wouldn't be there. So
we can plan ahead or whatever.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be special. I put it down that way. It could just be an agenda item. That'll be decided by the president. That's just, it doesn't matter. It could be either way. It doesn't have to. The law does not require a special meeting. I just want to be clear.
Okay. And now just to jump in on that before you go to your next question or several, is typically those decisions have been made based upon how many applicants, right? And if there are 27 applicants, then it's going to take a little bit more time. So you're going to maybe I would suggest you want to start a little earlier in the day. If there's a smaller number, and so it's with BLT we make the agendas anyway, and so having those conversations, I think it's important for Wayne in that way, and then that way just making the decisions that way, and the same has been done. If 5 applicants apply, for an example, you don't have to have a weeding down if you don't want to. It's totally up to you. You can say we're just going to go to one time. It just depends, right, on who applies and what it is that you would like to do.
Well, this process contemplates 5 or less. We don't do the weeding out part because it's just 5 people at a for the interviews. Yeah. So, and that's the way we've always done it.
Trustee Church, you still have questions?
Can you go over that last statement? You lost me for a second.
So if we only get 5 applicants or less, we don't do the weeding out process on November 22nd. It would just go to the board meeting on December 6th, which is a special meeting, to the interview and appointment process.
Could we not make that decision on November 22nd? Legally, we couldn't. If we only have 5, could we make that decision?
Well, remember, you have to post.
We have to post. So
okay.
We would have to, and so this contemplates 5 or less. If it goes 6 or more, then we do the weeding out process.
All right. I hope there's not a quiz on this because I'm.
Well, the calendar. Well, you have the calendar too. There,
yeah,
that should.
I saw it.
So that we don't have to be quiz ready.
Got it. All righty. And then the only other question, just a big what if the election results come in by 8 in the morning and it looks like Dr. Taylor's not going to be selected for the assembly, would we still put out the application?
No, not at all.
Okay, then we would stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's not completely accurate because we had to get it to the paper. So tomorrow the notice of application will go out, but it specifically says this is contingent upon this happening.
That's how it goes. Okay.
Yeah, because we recognize that this is going to take several days to decide, so we need to get those applicants in and
well, let people know and have them start thinking about it.
Right.
It's just fair for them.
Exactly.
But we would just basically stop the process.
Yeah.
at that point.
Everything's contingent.
Right,
If I don't win, you don't get to replace me. If that's your question, Trustee Church. If I don't win, no, that's not it. Okay, just all right. Trustee Smith and then Trustee Mayberry.
I think he still wants what's behind door number 2.
Okay.
So I still have my original question, which no, that's okay. It was what I believed may be intention for Ms. Anderson, which is that I know you had mentioned that we have the newspaper POTUSing, but do we have everything ready to go to promote this far and wide through all of our media partners, since this is a reduced period?
Okay. Well, it's not really a reduced period. It's pretty much the same process. It just feels reduced because of the holidays, okay? So we are ready, Board Services and Legal, for our end of it, whether or not there's...
Ms. Anderson.
Hi. Michelle Anderson, Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer. Yes, we are ready in support, as we have done in the past with Board Services and Office of General Counsel. We do have a standard news template that we would send out to our media partners. We'd post on social and post on the website as well. So we are ready to go should that be the direction of the board.
Thank you so much. I'm very much in support of this. I'm very much in support of District E having representation. The only thing that I will mention as just one single trustee is that for anyone looking at these dates, I do recognize that that is the week of Thanksgiving, and virtual attendance, I assume, will not only be fine, but absolutely understandable. If interested members may not be here, virtual attendance is absolutely okay. Okay, very good.
As far as legality, it's totally okay. It's up to you whether or not that works for you as a board. Yeah.
I would say this, just again, my job is just to kind of direct some traffic a little bit. The last appointment process, I don't remember, it was either for your position, Trustee Smith, or yours, Trustee Rodriguez, I don't remember which, but I do remember we had some attendees via Zoom. Was it maybe Trustee Mayberry?
And for mine,
a couple. We did have a couple of for that paring down, and so the board allowed that. No one asked to be virtual for the final interview, so that didn't happen. But we did have, and it was allowed. And JJ did all the magic she needs to do to make sure people had the available Zoom link and so on.
That's a great point, because it might dissuade people. So that's probably important to put out there that, if you're out of town on Tuesday, you can still show up via Zoom if need be.
Certainly understandable. Trustee Mayberry? Thank you, Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, it'd be nice not to, assuming you win, and then we make the replacement, it'd be nice not to be the freshman anymore. So, but I do think this is a very proactive government. I think it's responsible. I appreciate the desire to have representation should you prevail and should you depart. Just a couple questions. This is pretty easy. December 6th, that would normally not be a board meeting. That was just a special meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then secondly, you said something I just want to clarify. You can't hold two offices. Maybe I'll address this to the council. You can't hold two elected offices in the state. So should she be duly elected this evening and becomes a member of the assembly, but then I heard you say that the LCB says you can still sit in its capacity till the 22nd. I don't understand the disconnect there.
Yeah, and that's probably my fault. So the canvass occurs with the Nevada Supreme Court on November 22nd.
Okay.
So the LCB has advised as long as a special session isn't called, then she wouldn't be sworn in, and it would allow for any challenges that might occur. Because think of the inequity of it. If she resigns her position on November 9th and somebody challenges the election, and then there's a delay in filling that seat, and now she's given up this duly elected seat to replace that. So the LCB's opinion was, and I concur with their opinion because we double checked, is that it's the canvass that should be the issue. That so once she's canvassed, then President Taylor should resign her position as trustee, because at that point the results, they still can be challenged, but the results are final, and the challenge becomes even more difficult, if not impossible, at that point. At that point, you start going into what's called a quo warranto, and I could bore you to death, but it's next to impossible at that point.
Yeah, that's an interesting analysis.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any public comment on this, JJ? No, we don't have any? Okay, bring it here. Trustee Smith?
If there's no discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
All right. I move for item 4.03, I move that the Board of Trustees adopts the process to appoint a potential vacancy in District E as required by law and laid out by the Office of General Counsel.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Seconded from Trustee Rodriguez. Motion from Trustee Smith. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Opposition? The motion carries. I don't know if that's an official abstention. Is that an official abstention from me? Is that so? Let the record show it is 6-0 to 1, I guess. Just show that I abstained, whatever that looks like over there, JJ. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and then I will add this. Once it is posted, whenever that happens, let's share it. Everybody, get the word out. Put it on your own social, email it out to folks. Let's share it. Let's share it. Okay, we've been in this for about an hour and a half. Why don't we take a 15-minute break? Okay, and then come on back. We have a couple of agenda items left that could be kind of lengthy, but they'll be good. So let's take a 15-minute break and come on back, everybody.
Okay, everyone is here.
Everyone is here. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for allowing us to have a little dinner break. We appreciate it. We know it's a snowy day, and it's a busy day. So we are back on the agenda. Agenda item 4.04. Look at there's a lot of people. We're going to 4.05 actually, because we have guests who are here, and we're very excited about it. This is our Quality of Education School Spotlight presentation to highlight the success of the students attending Florence Drake Elementary School, our Blue Ribbon School here in Washoe County. Yes. We're very, very excited. I'm turning this over to the superintendent. She's leaning in with a microphone on, so.
A protocol question, if I might?
Yes, sir.
If I might on this one, a little clarification. It says for presentation only. I've never seen that before, as opposed to the previous one for discussion information. Could legal or the board president, are we allowed to ask questions? Are we allowed to give input?
You sent, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, because you sent that email actually to somebody else, but I was asked a question, so I asked legal about it. And you should have sent it to me or legal. Try to get an answer. For sure, this distance between 2 points is a straight line. So we did have that conversation. And so he said, let's keep our discussion to a minimum because it was not highlighted as such on this. So this usually it would say presentation and discussion. This just says presentation, as pointed out by Trustee Church. So I asked legal about it. We would not be outside of the scope if we had just keep it to a minimum, but we can't have thorough discussion like we might want to because it just was not highlighted on the agenda. So thank you for pointing that out. We want to certainly be in compliance with open meeting law, and then moving forward, we'll make sure that it has a discussion and presentation, because we want to be able to have a robust discussion around these, especially something like this. So, okay, that being said, Dr. Enfield.
Thank you, President Taylor. So as we all know, that we are focusing on quality of education at all of our meetings. We had our first presentation at the last meeting, which was our quantitative presentation, and now we get the joy of our qualitative presentation. And these are going to be school spotlights where we ask principal, staff, families to come and just share the amazing work happening at their school. And of course, Florence Drake was proud to be there alongside Heather and Jason and Nicole in Washington, D.C. on Friday when they were recognized. It was a wonderful event, and I know that Lauren is going to introduce them, but then Principal Shipman will introduce us to our inaugural Washoe County School District student superstar, whom we will honor with a certificate and take a photo with. So, and I just want to say that this is a practice I've done prior as a superintendent, and it's to really identify those students who are going above and beyond and are recognized by their principal, their teachers, for being such a valuable member of their school community. And it'll soon be the highlight of your meetings, I promise you.
All right, thank you very much.
President Taylor, Superintendent Enfield, Board of Trustees, Lauren Ford for the record. I would like to introduce to you Jason Shipman, Principal at Drake Elementary School, and with him today are teachers Wendy Ritter, Heather Carpinella, Krista Bates, and Laura Martin. Would you like to come up?
Hello, Board. Dr. Enfield, thank you for having us. What an exciting and amazing opportunity. I'm going to start by saying I don't usually get overly emotional, but when we talk about my beautiful student, I am going to.
All right.
So bear with me. We're here to celebrate.
Thank you, Lauren.
We're here to celebrate the whole district, and we're going to spotlight our school, because that's our honor and our privilege. I have with me two of our amazing veteran teachers who make Drake amazing, so they're going to speak to you as well. I'm going to try to speak from some script, but I don't want to bore you to death. We do have a great presentation for you. I want to give some context to Drake. Some of you have been here longer than me in the district, and some of the photos we'll share and stories I think will bring back to context maybe where our district has come from, as well as where it's headed with our beautiful young girl we're going to share with you today. So with no further ado, I would like to get right to our amazing fifth grader, Emily Ruiz Ortega.
Yay!
All right.
I think she's a little shy.
I know.
I went up and introduced myself. I'm not sure she knows what's going on.
So Emily, we had the very tough task of having to choose one of our Florence Drake Elementary students who stands above and models what it means to be a falcon.
Yeah.
And your teachers and our community did not have a tough time choosing you. And so your teachers wrote down some very gut words that I want to read aloud, word for word. Are you okay with that? Yeah, okay. And you can just smile and be proud, because we're all proud of you. So Emily's teachers wrote, Emily Ruiz Ortega has attended Drake Elementary School since kindergarten. When she started school, she had limited English skills, which left her feeling lonely and isolated. Through hard work and perseverance, that language barrier slowly eroded. And by the end of the year, that's in kindergarten, she had a treasure trove of friends. That initial unhappiness was replaced by laughter and smiles. And I know you're shy here, I can't blame you. I'm nervous too, speaking in front of this body. But what you'll usually see from Emily is this wonderful smile and a helpful nature in the classroom. That work ethic carried over to subsequent grade levels as she grew as a student. Emily has never shied away from the hard work and has put maximum effort into every day at Drake. If you have ever seen one of Emily's math assessments, you will see a student who uses every piece of scratch paper to show her work. Her high marks at each step on the school ladder are a testament to her dedication to learning. As a fourth grader, Emily tried out for the Drake soccer team. Not only did she make the team, one of only 3 girls who made our Falcon squad, but she played in every game and grew to be one of the most improved players. Emily's athleticism is rivaled by her amazing artistic talent. She regularly creates beautiful pieces of artwork for her teachers and classmates. She is a friend to everyone she meets, peers, younger students, older students, teachers and staff members alike. She greets everyone with kindness, a big smile, and an open heart. She is a Drake Falcon, and we are proud of her.
So thank you so much, Principal Shipman. And I want to say bienvenido a la familia Ortega for being here to celebrate their daughter. And felicidades to Emily for this honor. We're incredibly proud of you. We have a certificate that we're going to give you. I know that you are really ready for this to be over so that you can go back to your seat. But we're really proud of you, and we're going to do one photograph. Are you okay with that? And your family is welcome to come up and be in the photograph as well, or do a photograph with you. But first I want to read your certificate. Proudly presented to Emily Ruiz Ortega, Florence Drake Elementary School, in recognition for your outstanding contribution to your school and our community, we honor you as not a, but our first WCSD student superstar. And there are over 61,000 students in this district. And this month, you are the one superstar that we're honoring. So congratulations, Emily. Okay, photo op time. I know.
Okay, trustees, another
Didn't I
photo
tell you
op?
this would be awesome?
Of course it is.
proud of you. Good job.
When we were interviewing him,
Yeah.
orchestra, his mother went to bat for him.
Did you go to?
It was everything. It was
And so obviously, Emily and her family are welcome to stay for the meeting. However, you may please go and enjoy your evening and get home safely in the snow, so it's your choice. But please, we won't be offended if you leave.
Well, thank you. What an endearing moment. I mean, I get to gush on our school now, but it feels not as important as that moment we just had. So thank you for helping us celebrate Emily.
All right.
Here's our wonderful staff.
All right.
This was not my idea to put on the captain's hat and have all my sailors, but I loved it for the euphemism, being shipmen, if nothing else. But it definitely embodies the spirit and the teamwork in our building. When I came in half a short year ago to this wonderful team, one common thread that I've heard from everyone in our building, including our community, is once you go to Drake, you fall in love with the family, with the team, and you stay at Drake. And it is that family spirit that drives us. I actually had a lot of great things I was going to say about this slide and our staff, but I want to finish speaking for a moment and let two of my amazing educators speak to you, Mrs. Ritter and Mrs. Martin, about Drake and what they like about Drake.
And pull those microphones over, would you, ladies? Yeah. Thank you.
Do you want to go? Oh, my goodness. Okay. Hello. To read off this. My name is Wendy Ritter, and 22 years ago, I was blessed to join the amazing staff at Florence Drake as a special education resource teacher. I have loved it so much, I have not left. Over these years, the encouragement and support by my administrators and staff has helped me grow as an educator. Friendships have been formed and lasted through the years. All the staff at Drake create a warm and caring, fun environment which is felt as families and students and visitors walk through our doors. With care and love and support, all students are held to high expectations in both academics and behavior. We are like the Musketeers, all for one and one for all. With each teacher's dedication and tireless effort, we collaborate together to improve our instruction and share in the responsibility to ensure all students learn and no student falls through the cracks. As a special education teacher, I am welcomed and included in classrooms and in planning, and I'm definitely part of the team. I love coming to work each day, and I get to work with my friends. I have a wonderful group of people who lift me up and help me through the hard days with silliness and laughter. Drake is a family. We have a lot of fun together, both in and out of school. We are there for each other during difficult times and to celebrate the joys in our lives. I am truly lucky to be part of this wonderful team. I am so grateful to work at Drake, and I'm so proud of the staff at Drake for receiving this Blue Ribbon honor.
Hi, I'm Laura Martin. I'm the music teacher at Drake, and I was fortunate to come to Drake 5 years ago. And from the day I stepped on campus and was welcomed there by all these people who had been there for many, many years, because everybody wants to stay. Once they're there, I started saying to anybody who would listen, oh my gosh, there are amazing things happening at Drake. And it's everything that Wendy said. You know, our staff works together. It's the things that you hope are happening at schools, and it actually happens there. And the staff comes together as a united group to support all the students, whether it's individual students or a class as a whole or the entire student body, behaviorally, socially, as well as academically, and coming together to work through the challenges and celebrate the successes. And it shows, as a music teacher, I get to see every student on campus twice every week, and they come in and they're happy. We have happy students, we have happy families, Haffey staff, and it's a privilege to be a part of the Drake community. So thank you for having us all here today.
Let's get that microphone. Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I want to go to this end slide first and just let you orient yourself for a moment. This was a context slide. I just found this today as I was finding, I'm like, I need something else on top of these amazing teachers and this amazing student. What you're looking at, if you can orient yourself to Pyramid Highway, that is along the bottom, and those buildings, which are hangars, is Greenbrae Drive.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
This is Pyramid right here?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, that's right there is Greenbrae going up. That's Pyramid.
This is Pyramid.
Yep. And then going, that's Greenbrae right there. Uh-huh.
Wow.
This was the Sparks Air Park, informally known as Greenbrae, up into the late 50s. And as I was doing more research today, and I found out, I didn't know this as a Washoe County School District employee, that the Washoe County School District was formed in 57, 58 as a consolidation of upwards of 17 districts that were within our county. And as I found this photo, this really captures the growth and the legacy of where our community has come from. I am not a Nevadan born. My wife will always joke with me, she's third generation. Her father was born and raised, and her mother, right on 4th Street, went to Lincoln Park Elementary and went to Sparks High. But this contextualizes it because Drake Elementary was built in 1960. Look what was in Sparks in 1960.
Wow.
From our doorsteps was nothing but cattle ranches and fields and sagebrush as far as the eye could see. From our building was then built the Probasco homes of Old Sparks, the great architect, the single car garages for the single family income of the baby boomer era. Our school was called a baby boomer style of school. Yeah. All of these things kind of clicked together. And that was the demographic then, and a wonderful demographic at that time. And we are overwhelmingly proud of who we are today. And here is our demographic today. Still a legacy school, still grandchildren and great-grandchildren of original residents of these 1960s homes still coming to our school. But as well, another beautiful and wonderful clientele who come into our building and fill our hearts with joy. Some other just random things. I don't know how much you know about Sparks. Of course, as you saw from that picture, when Drake Elementary was built, there was no McCarran Boulevard. That wouldn't come around for 20 more years, 25 years, right? So much has changed. But one thing has remained the same, and that is our commitment to children. This I found in a note from a school board meeting in 1958. This was on our district information, by the way. Mr. Sanford, one of the board members, with Robert Drake, son of Florence Drake, who was the chairman who helped consolidate us into a district, by the way, with Archie Clayton, with Agnes Risley, these names are familiar. He said, "We are primarily first citizens, and we are interested in all the children." Wasn't that beautiful?
Very cool.
So here's our children. We love them. They make us us. Here is our data at a glance. We wanted to talk to you about what the amazing students are doing in our building. Yes, we have earned the amazing distinguishment of being a blue ribbon school this school year, but this work is ongoing. It is not 1 year. It has been building up this way for many years. It is a combination of amazing staff, beautiful and dedicated children, and phenomenally involved community members, parents who want to be there, who want to be involved for the right reasons, that have led us to these types of scores. On SBAC, for example, in this last year, we were at a 70% in ELA and a 59% in math. Those are the highest Title I scores in this district.
Yes.
During over the last handful of years, we've seen tremendous growth and trajectory. If you look kind of to the right, This is data provided to me by the data department by Dr. Peterson and Mr. Ernst. During our principal's report this summer, and I shared this with the staff, there was this funny new acronym. As in education, we love acronyms. And it was called the Pre-Pandemic Growth Levels, the PPGL. And Mr. Ernst and Dr. Peterson said Drake had made the most growth of any school in the whole district, not just elementary, since before the pandemic, had outgrown those levels by 17% in ELA. And I was amazed by that. That is just what an accomplishment, right? And then I dug deeper into the data. And so I have a new acronym that I am going to trademark. It is the TRI-PGL. It is the pre-pandemic. So if you go back 1 year earlier, right? Amazing what you see when you dig into the data. We have grown as a school 22% in proficiency in the last 4 years. So
that's awesome.
Amazing, amazing work happening at our school.
That's awesome. No.
These are the things that fill us with pride. With our students, here are pictures. Students having fun with Mrs. Martin, students having fun with our soccer team, students randomly tying each other's shoes and making me smile, and helping me so I don't have to break my back and tie that shoe for them. Right. The blue ribbon, our beautiful school. Could have some notes there. Thank you. So we are constantly focusing on improving and innovating. As Mrs. Ritter said, even today with the snow outside, our staff was either on site or off site on Teams, zooming in and collaborating to no end. That is what makes our school so unique. I don't want to say different, it's what we expect in all of our schools, but it is magical in our building. Everybody owns all of the students. There is no your student, my student. There is, these are our Falcons, and how are we going to help them, every one of them, succeed? These are the extra things. I like to say, having been at the secondary level as well, there is so much more to school than reading, writing, and math. And sometimes we forget that in education. Those are the important indicators that we measure success in our schools on. That is what our community looks to our schools and says, well, show me the data. But it is the intangibles that keep students coming back. It is smiling teachers who give them hugs on a bad day, who give them a high five when they succeed on a math test, who help them succeed on a soccer team that the school district has helped put together because the district recognizes that in some of our disenfranchised communities, this could be some of our students' only access to organized sports. But that creates a pipeline for success at middle school when our students then roll up to Dilworth or go over to Sparks Middle, and gives them more of a purpose. And when they get to middle and high school, things like a robotics club, like that soccer team, that is what continues to keep the students engaged with education as they're having struggles. So we are so happy to be planting those seeds as well as keeping that family atmosphere. And like any school, we are open and honest, knowing that there are things we are always seeking to improve upon. If you were in our building today, like I said, you would have seen our staff, whether they were in person because they braved the weather, or whether they were snowed in up in Northwest Reno and made the safe decision to stay home, but they were zooming in with us, and we were focusing on this for this year. We are still using data in a real way. We're looking at our SBAC scores. We're using our MAP data. We're taking our common formative assessments and what teachers are doing, and we're working through that together to always identify what we need to be doing differently. Something else we have done this year that definitely does deserve a shout out, as it is new in our building, is though our school was sad to lose a couple programs, behavioral support programs, we did gain a school within a school. 2 programs, the SWAS program. This is for people who might not know, or for the record, are all-day GT students. And they have absolutely blended in with all of our other students exactly like we wanted to. And that is because all of our students are Falcons. It is not SWAS students and our Falcon students or Drake students. We are one big family. And you wouldn't know the difference in the lunchroom, in the cafeteria. Our kids are our kids, and we treat them all the same, whether they're brand new to us or whether they were raised in our community, like Emily and her brother. So so that I don't bore you to death, I can gush all day. Thank you for letting me talk about Drake. Thank you for recognizing Drake as well as the many other schools you will in our district. I appreciate the work you're doing to help the district, and our teachers are so proud to be doing that brave work every day.
Awesome. Dr. Enfield?
Yes, thank you, President Taylor. And Ms. Martin, Ms. Ritter, thank you for being here tonight and for sharing your love for your school. Principal Shipman, thank you so much. I don't think there's any question as to how and why you earned your National Blue Ribbon designation. Congratulations again. And I know that you have your math family night on the 15th, next Tuesday. And those of us in the district will be happy to be there at the beginning to welcome your families and keep the celebration going. Because why not keep the celebration going? Because being a Blue Ribbon school is a big deal. And so we're going to keep celebrating. So thank you very, very much.
Remember, it's for a presentation, not discussion, so if there's anything anyone just has to get out, then certainly we apologize. We didn't put a discussion opportunity on the agenda. We would want to love on you all the more, but we hope you know that how much we appreciate you, the amazing work that's being done right there. It makes me want to be a Falcon. I don't know about the rest of you, but it's awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right. That's the good stuff, you guys. That's the good stuff, huh? That's the good stuff. Yep, that is absolutely our why. All right. Agenda item 4.04. Presentation and discussion on the progress and schedule for the district-wide facility modernization plan. I believe our guest area is on Zoom. Joining us, Mr. Mills, coming back with us, but this time on Zoom. And then we see Mr. Searcy, our COO, in front of us as well. Please.
Hi, good afternoon. Adam Searcy, Chief Operations Officer for the record. Just a brief intro. As many of you recall, most recently, September 27th, we presented on our progress related to a facilities modernization plan. Since that time, I was presenting and will be tonight with our consultant, Canon Design. Since that time, they've been actively engaged with a variety of stakeholders, students, staff, and many other groups across the district, analyzing data and gathering qualitative feedback in support of the foundation of this progress. It was excellent foreshadowing, actually, some of that history lesson with these baby boomer schools and these parts of our community that are so valuable, and the opportunity in front of us to revitalize these and really all of our schools. So this is intended just to be a progress update, really, but also an important opportunity for the board to provide input as this process continues along through the end of the year and picks up steam into 2023. So that's kind of the intro, but I'll introduce Senior Vice President Paul Mills with Canon Design to walk you through today's presentation.
Thank you and good evening. Just quick tech check. Can you guys hear me and see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Fantastic. President Taylor, Dr. Enfield, trustees of the board, thank you for having me, and appreciate that I could present to you virtually. I would love to be with you in person. Knowing that I am one of the few things standing between you and your warm homes to get home safely, we'll keep things brief as far as our update this evening. So goals for today, we'll give you a quick status report on what we've been up to as part of it. And we'll also give you a bit more detail than we did on our last introduction into the process of the facility modernization plan, and give you kind of a preview of the sort of data analytics that are in process and the sorts of data that you're going to find. It's also an opportunity for us to give kind of a public shout out for the community survey, which we have extended and will remain open through the 11th of November. And just to give you a brief look ahead on the FMP. So here's our roadmap of where we are in our process, still towards the earlier midpoint of the first half of our process. But as you can see from the photos from the various working groups that we've been engaging with throughout, we've been very busy. When I last presented to you, I shared with you the different components of the work, and I'm going to categorically walk through what we've been up to with regard to each of those categories, starting with our visioning process and really building those guiding principles. The district planning group, which is composed of various director level and above leaders throughout Dr. Enfield's amazing team, have been working with us, and we're doing some broad universal goals as well as some very topical and focused areas, such as the ones that are listed here about the student experience, equity, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, career tech ed, special ed, English learner programs, pre-K, safety, and SEL, as well as staff development and retention. All of these topics have been discussed in depth, and we've formed and gathered a lot of great information that gives us the basis for this entire process. Community engagement, we've been extremely busy on this front, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of the communications and perhaps even heard from some of your friends and community partners. But we've had the stakeholder advisory group, which I shared with you last time. Yeah, we have 38 confirmed members of that group. Invitations were sent out to 66, and it was very intentionally designed group. This is a group that advises me and my company in terms of ground truthing and really bringing that local perspective on the work, and they have very specific roles in it. We've had 2 of their 6 workshops, and we've gone through exercises where we kind of envisioned the past and today and what that projection to tomorrow, as well as some exercises around looking at barriers as opportunities for design thinking and creative solutions. We've had 5 of the 8 community forums. The first 2 were really perfunctory exercises to get the message out, to make sure that the community was aware that this process was happening. So we had 3 in a couple weeks ago, where we had 2 in person and 1 virtual opportunity for folks to participate. And we intentionally set it up in different locations, different times of day, as well as the virtual opportunity to remove barriers for people who wanted to participate. Had over 100 community members participate in these last 3 rounds, and we had all manner of folks from the communities of your schools, ranging from students, parents, to teachers and administrators, and other community members as well. I was really proud to have had the opportunity to step in on one of the Student Advisory Council monthly meetings and do some engagements with them using some live polling technologies like you see in the pictures here, and engage them to really bring the most relevant perspectives to bear into this process. We also have open, as I mentioned earlier, a community survey. We've extended it through November 11th. It is available both in English and in Spanish. And the sorts of questions in this first round, it's number 1, we have another one that's going to be very specific about solutions for specific schools. This one is more universal about those core values, priorities, and trade-off decision criteria that we're going to use as a basis of information as we step into our design thinking. So far, there's actually, since printing, and we were at 1,200, we're over 1,300 responses to the survey, which we're really happy of. But we hope to have more as part of it. We're really proud to see that we have nearly all schools represented, and we're working with communications on strategies to make sure we can have as broad a perspective and proportional to your communities as possible. The facility condition assessment is a study of the physical health of your buildings. And in our role, we performed basically a peer review of the process of your ongoing FICUS surveys that you probably hear about periodically from Adam Searcy and staff. But we looked at that building assessment process. We've actually had independent field observations performed by design and construction professionals that work in the area of education to confirm the consistency and accuracy of the initial findings. And we've looked at outlier cases that might be explained by some of the dots on our scatter plot here. There's some measures that we use, and you might have heard before in other presentations. The Facility Condition Index is a way we benchmark how broken a facility is. It's the cost of all the various repairs that are anticipated within a near-term time frame, divided into the cost of complete replacement of a facility to get kind of a proportion of how broken facilities are. A few takeaways that we've learned through this process, in addition to the very specifics of how we might be able to help fix some of the challenges that are in the facilities. In general, you should be proud of the stewardship that the district has had, both in terms of funding and the upkeep of facilities, as well as the professional staff that's responsible for the stewardship of your buildings. In general, your buildings are very well maintained. and also very specifically that the eye is on the top priorities. There's very few anything that gets into the space of top priority one level sorts of things around safety and preservation of the assets. Something to celebrate. And the scatter plot here is one of many, many graphics that you're going to see as we get into it, but it really shows kind of a timeline. So if you look at the x-axis is years, so that's when the born on date for the various schools. And the FCI, that's how broken. So the further up the X, Y, or the Y-axis you go, that's the worst condition or how broken facilities are. But you can see the trend line there that the data really does bear out that the condition assessment is valid. And those outlier cases we've looked at very specifically. The ones that are below the line tend to be the schools that have gone through revitalization projects. So they tend to be in better condition than their age might suggest. And some of the ones that were above, we've looked at very specifically on what those types of repairs might need to be. A real important aspect is that we're not just looking at the brick and mortar in terms of its physical health, but also the design of your facilities. Call it educational adequacy assessment. It really gets into how well designed and equipped your buildings are and how suited they are for serving your students and your dedicated staff. It answers strategic questions like I have listed on here. How do we compare and prioritize? So benchmarking and prioritize all the various needs of your 100 campuses that you have around the district. And they're built over different times. As you can see in this graphic here with little footprints, these are actually real footprints of the physical notion of each one, and you can see how they're categorized by prototypes. We were earlier talking about Drake, one of your celebrated baby boomer schools, and you have many just like it. So how do we benchmark all of these various facilities that were built over different times, and how do we find specific improvements so we can strategically bring these older facilities into the 21st century? Here's kind of another graphic that shows how they were built over time, right? Each column there is a swath, each dot is a school. You can see over a timeline when the different eras of these different prototypes were implemented over time. So you have a lot of diversity of when all these facilities were done. Down at the bottom, you can see all the one-of-a-kinds that were done, and clearly there's one-of-a-kind still in use, dating all the way back to Mount Rose Elementary School back around 1910. So what does this look like and feel like, and what can you anticipate? It's kind of a rubric of sorts I've described to you a little bit. I'm diving a little deeper into show you what sorts of things to expect. Working with the DPG, we have identified 6 categories that we're going to use to measure, as well as a unified overall score for each facility. And beneath that, there are all these little icons that you'll see here that represent around 25 or so subcategories of KPIs, different things that are very actionable, and also measurements that are very interesting to different stakeholders. Let's see, the yardstick that we're using is your current design standards. So your brand new schools like the new HUG or your new middle school facilities or Inskeep's Elementary School. These are the yardstick by which all the other schools are measured, so that we're looking at how compliant are your older facilities to your new schools of today, and clearly using that kind of yardstick, we can find those inequities that exist in your portfolio today. We do gap analysis to find specific items to improve, and to make sure that we have the opportunity to make those improvements in a way that offer an equitable student experience or school experience for all of the staff and families that benefit from your services. Those benchmarks create numbers and scores that are very important at the end of the day. They help us benchmark and set an objective way to create brackets around different classes of schools and where their needs are, and to help force rank priorities of things. And what I'm really proud of is that these rubric rates that are still being finalized right now are actually being informed by the survey that's out there. Your community is helping weigh in on what these various priorities are. It's not an arbitrary number. It's actually dictated by your stakeholders as part of the work, as well as feedback and input from the district planning group. And as I mentioned before, this really is about emphasizing equity, which drives at my next slide here. We've all seen this image here that's very provocative and really creates a vivid and impactful conversation around what equity really is. I've learned a lot through my clients, and I've evolved in my thinking around what equity is. For many, many years, as an industry, the architecture and engineering industry has gone and looked at things from a brick and mortar perspective. Common standards. We have an ed spec. We build things a certain way, common types of materials that are meant to be in there. We look at equality of those various things, which really looks at the left-hand graphic here. We've evolved our thinking in our firm, and what we're bringing to you and working with your staff on is designing a way we can actually look at above and beyond minimum standards of parity for brick and mortar sake, but really looking at the flesh and blood, the human beings that are serviced by these buildings. The different students that we have in different communities, different schools, all have different needs and various needs that are out there. It really speaks to the MTSS, multi-tier support, systems of support that you aspire to bring into your schools. And we've set up our calibration to where different schools might have different standards and priorities based on the types of communities that they serve. Capacity analysis is a very important part. We've talked about equity and efficiency as part of this. We're looking very close at this, and the early metrics that we've looked at suggested that there is a lot of surplus capacity in your system, owing to the fact you've been able to keep up with capacities, you've been on a growth curve, and as we look at a projected decline of enrollment in the near term, we have the opportunity and breathing room to really look at opportunities not just to go to those older schools and bring equity through improvements to them, but also perhaps creating a more efficient portfolio in a way that helps you direct your operational dollars into the classroom where it really belongs and has the most educational impact and community impact. But some specifics about it, we're looking deeper than just the number of seats. We're looking at the use of the classrooms, and we recognize that in your MTSS model, you have all these co-located services that occupy space. And in your newer facilities that by design have those dedicated spaces for it, your older ones do not. And because of that, classrooms are set aside for these purposes, and we're being very careful and intentional about how we examine the programs that are in all your schools. And we're not assuming that a school has all this surplus capacity when it actually has all these programs that are in classrooms that you can't schedule classes in. Does that make sense? And also we're looking at the master schedules, looking a step further. Like if this is a matrix here of each room, I forget which school this was, I think it might have been Worcester, the different room numbers and different periods of the day and having a room loading, look at how many students are scheduled in this space. We're peeling back the onion a layer deeper and looking into the actual operation in terms of the scheduling. And perhaps there's an opportunity for efficiencies in terms of the way we have supports in the types of designs and flexibility in your classrooms so that you might be able to use your facilities a little more efficiently. So next steps, where this is going. This is about a lot of data, and I was really inspired by your principal from Drake, hearkening on data as a driving force behind the improvements that really gets to our ethos and how we do facility planning. And as we step forward into this process, we are compiling and finalizing all of our data and then stepping into specific design solutions and options that will be presented out to your community in January. We'll be back in front of you in December and presenting some of those draft options as well as a little bit more detail on what I'm kind of hinting at in terms of what's coming in the data as well. And here's kind of a public service announcement for everyone else out in the community who might be watching or watching the recording. While we've had 2 rounds of community engagements and forums that are out there, there's one coming that's the real important one where we have specific options presented. Those are in January 25th and 26th. There will be 2 opportunities, locations to be determined, but watch our website at washingtonschools.net/FMP. 2 one daytime, one evening opportunity for in-person engagement as well as another virtual opportunity. And another quick shout out, as I mentioned in our goals for today. I just want to make the public aware there is this survey that's out there also on that website with links to the Spanish and English versions. And if, for convenience, we do have the little QR codes. We can point our phones and iPads and such and be able to participate in the process. Also, please don't just do it. Please share the message out there, and it's very important that we have the perspectives of everyone from the community. And with that, I'll turn it over for questions.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have any public comment on this? I know there's not an action item, so we shouldn't anyway. So I do have a question. First of all, thank you. Thank you for all the work. Thank you for the community forums. Over 100 participants. I think that's fantastic. Just my question is, and thank you, by the way, for also having a dual language so that our Spanish-speaking families can be involved as well. That's just really important. Do we have any information at all on the demographics of those who have been participating? Are we getting feedback from our English, our Spanish language, Spanish-speaking families, our Title IX schools, our Title I schools, those underrepresented groups? Are we being successful in reaching and getting some input from them as well? Community members as well as those schools?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Great question. And indeed, we are measuring that. We have optional questions where folks can identify which schools they have relationships direct impact with, as well as socioeconomics and time in Reno, et cetera, and role in relationship. And we are analyzing that as we get closer to putting a bow on this. We're looking to make sure that if we need any sort of targeted outreach, we can do so.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you, because we have until January, right before that last set, so that'd be a great time to analyze and see if additional outreach can be done. So thank you for considering that. Other comments, questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Mills. Trustee Smith.
Thank you, President Taylor. So I have one question. It's a toggle between slides 7 and 16. We can probably go to slide 16, although I loved that chart with the line. I'm going to say that I know that not all of our schools are on there, but I see Reed very high above that line. And I'm going to make a guess that maybe Vaughn was even higher than that and maybe didn't make it on the chart. But for slide 16, you've caught my attention with the early action projects. Something that we've brought up a few times is, of course, fidelity to process is important, and so is agility when there is urgent need. And when I say slide 16, that's in the PDF I'm looking at. It may not. It says board and then CFPC, which I assume stands for Capital Funding Protection Committee, and it shows on December 1st and December 13th, respectively, early action projects. I would never ask you to share what those may be, but can you talk a little bit about what that might look like at those meetings?
Absolutely. So we are, we're deep in the data right now and looking at the various options that are available. But one thing that we've been talking about with staff very strategically are those windows of opportunity to make some decisions and early investments that will lead towards the specific years. It's a sort of calendar on construction design and construction timelines where if you're a day late, you're a year late. And we're looking at those cusps, and we're kind of approaching one where there might be some opportunities to present some recommendations earlier in the process where the data are suggesting some earlier action.
That's excellent, and I'm very, very glad to see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Other questions, comments? This is exciting stuff, though.
It's really good stuff.
I mean, I love saying that we know there are opportunities and we can more efficiently use what we have, and that's now that we've built a lot. It's a really good time to be able to look inside it. I mean, with an opportunity for us to be able to do that. So, Madam Superintendent?
Yeah, really quickly, because I'm mindful of time and safety. Paul, thanks very much for this update. Appreciate you being here with us virtually. And I also just want to thank Adam Searcy. He's really been the driving force behind this effort. And I think this will be a real game changer for our system moving forward. And I believe that that potential is made even more significant the way in which it will dovetail with our strategic planning efforts. There's really, really exciting things on the horizon in this district. So I want to publicly thank Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Searcy, and thank you, Mr. Mills. I don't see any other questions from the board. Okay, well, we appreciate your work. Thank you so much. Thank you for helping us utilize our facilities better. It's going to be exciting.
Thank you, and please stay safe.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We're certainly going to try. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Searcy. All right. Is Ivy still on, the student rep? Nope. Okay. Nope. Don't blame her. It's late. I'm going to ask, unless there's something really, really pressing, that we forego board reports just because of the weather.
Yeah.
I'd like to board report.
You would still like to make one, Trustee Church? Okay. Why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. I know the time is short, although I looked outside, the roads are looking much better and stopped snowing. I did attend a number of events, but I'll try and be brief since we're not going to meet for quite a while. Yesterday there was an article in This is Reno. I encourage people to read it. It's got a great picture of me. The headline starts, Washoe County School Board Trustee Jeff Church over the weekend issued a call for civility during the election season. I stand by that. Quote, please, let's be civil and let's be polite to our fellow trustees, to our fellow candidates, to our members of the county commission, city of Reno, et cetera, et cetera. And that hasn't been the case perhaps on both sides. Specifically, I want to call out a couple comments that I made. Number one, the headline states that, if I can find it, school trustee calls for civility, claims to be Jewish, won't denounce anti-Semitism. Completely false. My daughter tested 38% Jewish based on the other side of the family. I'm adopted, and it would appear that I do have some Jewish heritage, but that's conjecture, so I probably erred in even bringing it up until I actually do my own. And the statement that I won't denounce anti-Semitism is completely false. They were trying to get me to address a particular individual who I don't know what he said, and I really don't care what he said. So again, it's just kind of a hatchet job, but it's still an interesting article that's worth reading. What the article brings up, and it's a quote, and I wrote it, the gentleman contacted me I was at the gym. I wrote a quick little response pointing out that I'm sure it had lots of typos, and he made sure all those typos appeared in the article. I do know how to spell public school. That was my attempt at humor and my ability to read. But the headline states, correction, the headline, the tweet that went out in part from the director of the Downtown Redevelopment, correction, Downtown Reno Partnership, says, go sell your snake oil, anti-Semitic hatred, and extremist candidates somewhere else. Nevada's not buying your bullshit, end quote. That was from Naoma Jardin. I repudiate that 100%. That's not professional. It doesn't represent our community. And to be clear, she said extremist candidates. She wasn't talking about some individual. She was talking about 15 candidates that took the hard effort to put themselves out to run for election. And then the vice mayor of Reno stated, thank you, Naoma, for pointing out the truth about these abhorrent candidates. Again, not an individual candidate. Please, folks, let's be civil. If you're going to say that, put up or shut up. Show me how they're hatred-filled, anti-Semitic. I'm sorry, folks, but this is just unacceptable. And if you watch tonight as a board, we were very civil, and I appreciate that. This is a good board, and we are civil, and I just can't condone that kind of stuff.
I'm sorry, Trustee Church, you're over your time, sir.
Thank you.
By quite a bit. I was listening, and I should have been watching, so thank you. If it's okay with the rest of it, I think we're just to be able to get out of here and so on. We know maybe the snow has slowed down, but we know it's getting icy, and it's much more important for us to be safe. Yes. Results won't be out for a couple hours. It's not about the election. It's about being safe.
Yes.
Results are not out right now. So we do have a closing public comment. Okay.
Jeff Church.
Recognizing the roads are icy, Jeff Church for the record, I'm going to try and be brief. I just want to make the community aware and the fellow trustees that there's some issues involving the use of Reno High School for a political event. I brought this to the attention of staff. I'm not going to go over everything I was going to go over, but I just trust it's going to be looked into. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and we'll verify for the community whether this was handled appropriately or with any favoritism or mistakes in process or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Church. And for the record, I will say that has been shared, that the processes are being looked at, so that's already been shared. So that information is there. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Then we are adjourned. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, November 22nd. We are adjourned. Everybody, please be safe. Please be safe.